And welcome to the No Name Yet podcast. That is the podcast with no name. And on tonight's show is the man who ate Chinese takeout in Cuba, Max Micallaf.
Hello. Thank you for having me.
So, those that did not see the season opener of season 6, that who is this guy, Max Micallaf? This guy, Max Micallaf, is a write-in candidate against Congressman Paul Tonko in the 20th Congressional District. That Max appeared in an article in our local paper, the Daily Gazette, and I reached out to him, and he has been so kind as to agree to be interviewed on the No Name Yet podcast. So what I want to ask right at the beginning of this episode is that whether you want to vote for Max or not, and you live in the 20th Congressional District, I ask you please to be a good citizen and share this podcast so people can learn about him and his candidacy, because we know that other than the Daily Gazette, he's probably going to get no press. Amen? Amen.
Yeah.
So welcome, Max.
Thank you for having me. I really appreciate it.
Oh, it's my pleasure. And so how old are you?
I am 27 years old as of June 16th. Time is flying by. I still feel 21, 22, but here I am.
Okay. All right. And so you have decided to run against Paul Tonko, who has been in politics my entire adult life, whether that had been in the state government or the federal government. He is somebody that I voted for more than probably, I don't know, maybe 4 or 5 times in the past. So can you tell us why you are running?
I am running because, I don't have a particular label for myself in terms of political ideology. When you think of socialism, communism, anarchism, I know these are big, scary words, or at least they're portrayed to be. I'm a combination of those things. But in the end of the day, I am an independent, registered voter to no political party, and I'm here to serve all of the working class, all of the little bit of the middle class that we have left, because the rich are getting richer and the poor are getting poorer, regardless of your political affiliation. There's no such thing anymore as two political parties, because they are of the same oligarchical, corporate, genocidal interests. We need someone in this spot to advocate for the end of the military-industrial complex, to end the police state, the prison industrial complex, to fight for universal health care and education, and really just say enough is enough and have a moral code to our budget. That's that. We're done with this economic, mental, emotional, physical, and spiritual trauma in the United States of America.
Very well said. And I like the fact that you mentioned spirituality. I am an ordained priest in an independent Catholic jurisdiction, and also a chaplain. And I personally feel that spirituality is a very important part of life.
Yeah. I practice Wicca. I practice a modern cultural version of Wicca, which, if anything, is actually very agnostic, because it emphasizes the need for, this may sound redundant, but humanitarianism while you're alive, uplifting the God that is in each of us. While at the same time, I also appreciate that Wicca is very clear that church and state should be two completely separate entities. So that's why I was drawn WICA in the first place. Also, the environmental justice aspect is really important to me as well.
So moving on to your political aspirations. Where did you grow up?
I grew up on the east end of Long Island, in the middle of the Hamptons. I was raised in a working class family in the middle of a very affluent area. So it was very trippy mentally to be surrounded by all of this surplus wealth while not having any access to its privileges. And also experiencing the police bias towards protecting property, protecting the wealthy over, having any sort of public service to uh, the, I guess you could say, the lower classes. I hate to say that, but it's unfortunately we have that capitalistic hierarchy in the United States.
Mm-hmm.
And then I moved to Virginia for 5 years. That was fifth grade through ninth grade in rural Western Virginia, not West Virginia. And that was also a very eye-opening experience. I came out as queer in middle school in seventh grade, and that was, my family accepted me, but the people around me in school especially did not at all. It was brutal. I had to, fight fire with fire, but it made me stronger in who I am today. And then I moved back to the east end of Long Island for my entire high school career. And then I went to college at SUNY Purchase in Westchester County, 40 minutes north of Manhattan. And then COVID happened. I went back to Long Island, and now here I am. I moved up here for work in the capital region of New York State. I've been here since January of 2022.
Okay. All right. And what industry do you work in?
I've worked in multiple different areas of the nonprofit, small nonprofit sector, LGBTQ education, youth rights, anti-sexual violence initiatives, anti-domestic violence initiatives. And I was also a social worker temporarily. And now I work where public health meets environmental justice, and making sure we're bringing more of a healthcare medical voice to the need for climate justice.
Okay. All right.
I work specifically in New York State public policy.
Okay. And the Capital District, how do you like it?
I love it. I love it. I had never, before I moved up here, obviously I was very familiar with Albany, but I had never, besides visiting Saratoga Springs once, I had never been up here. And as soon as I got here, I was like, wow, this feels like home. I need to plant my roots here, and that's exactly what I did in my personal life and politically. And I'm really glad to be up here.
Oh, that sounds great. I grew up here. I had to move 3,000 miles away to figure out that I love it here.
Mhm. Where are you from?
I grew up in Scotia,
Oh, okay.
and I moved to Tacoma, Washington for 4 years and came back.
Nice. Very nice.
So, is there anything else that you would like to share with the audience about yourself?
About myself, I think again, I am just like everyone, I'm a layered individual with a layered lived experience. I'm a queer person, I'm a young person, I practice Wicca, but I'm also very um agnostic at the same time. Uh I also believe in the full decriminalization of sex work, not legalization, not partial decrim, but full decrim, because that's what um, consensual adult sex workers as well as human trafficking survivors say that they need. And I'm a former sex worker. I was throughout all my 4 years of college while working in politics at the same time, which I think a lot of surprises people. Um, I'm a suicide attempt survivor. I am a big advocate for youth suicide prevention. I think that's where my need for, or my fight towards universal healthcare comes in, because universal healthcare includes universal mental health care,
Mhm.
because mental health care is healthcare. And there's much more to that. I'm an everyday person. It may not seem like it, but I am an everyday person, and we need more everyday people in our elected bodies instead of people who want to become career politicians. I'm only going to do, when elected, what the people want me to do. You want me to continue to fight? I'm going to continue to fight. You want me to go somewhere else and fight for you? I'm going to go somewhere else and fight for you.
So let me ask you this question. When you say what the people want you to do, I think that the baby boomers that have Teslas are very happy with what Tonko's been doing.
I want to capture more of the disenfranchised voter. Democrats who don't see that they have more options, Republicans who see that they have more options in their current options, as well as the majority who are independents, who are either not voting or are voting in a way where they also don't see that they have more options. I think politically in the United States, a lot of people intentionally, because of how our current quote unquote democratic system is, they have the blinders on, and you either choose blue or red, and even then it's you choose the blue that we give you or the red that we give you. And I'm over it. I'm completely over it. Again, I'm an independent candidate. I used to be a Democrat. Now I'm not. I am registered to vote, of course. I am not registered to a party. And I want people to see that being of the left, the real left, not liberal, is not as radical or as extreme as you think it is. I believe that everyone should have their basic needs met and more, period. That is not a partisan issue.
All right, that's all well said. I'm just going to throw out some different policy positions. You can be as brief or as lengthy as you want. If you're too lengthy, I'll probably edit it.
Sounds good.
Minimum wage.
Minimum wage. If we had a functioning economy that was not entrenched in corporate capitalism or just capitalism in general, we wouldn't have to be talking about a minimum wage, because we would understand that the current system of minimum wage is barely survival wages. It's below survival wage. A lot of people have reported when they get a job at big corporations like Walmart, when you get the job, they help you sign up for food stamps. That is disgusting and should be completely unacceptable. And that's with a minimum wage job.
Right.
A minimum wage job.
And that's been going on for so long, I forgot that was a thing.
Right, exactly. And if we had an economy that was working for the working class people, we wouldn't even need to be talking about minimum wage. However, if I have to give you a number, I would say minimum wage should be, if we're matching the rate of inflation, and I mean, by inflation, I mean corporate greed, political greed. Right now, it should be $25 to $26 an hour. But that, thinking about what it takes to meet the bare minimum for someone to survive, our political imagination should go way beyond that. We should not be starting from the bare minimum. If we want people to have full quality lives, we need to look beyond minimum wage and look at how are we going to have an economy that actually uplifts the everyday people.
Climate change.
Climate change. I work in the nonprofit sector. I work again directly where public health meets environmental justice, specifically air quality standards, air pollution, anything that affects the air that we breathe. I'm disgusted with people like AOC, Bernie Sanders, who are completely backtracking on what they wrote on in terms of their campaigns, their reelection campaigns, so on and so forth, where they continue to say these narratives of, oh, we're going to support the Green New Deal and do a complete overhaul. That is the bare minimum of what we should be doing. We need to realize that, yes, a good portion of the environmental destruction that our US is partaking in right now can be reversed, but there's also a large portion at this point is no longer reversible. We have to focus on halting it. I support every initiative possible to transition us into renewable energy, to clean up the air that we breathe, the soil, the water. It is completely unacceptable that we have a garbage patch in the Pacific Ocean that is bigger than some United States in the United States. And that is because the majority of pollution, again, air, water, soil, comes from 70% of it comes from corporations. And it is political corruption, political greed that prevents those corporations from cleaning up not only harm reduction, cleaning up their mess, but also stopping them from making that mess in the future. So any and all that we need, I support that and more to hopefully not just halt this destruction, but reverse the damage that we have done.
So some people say that the Democratic Party is the place where social justice goes to die. And it's been pointed out that the Green New Deal was originally came from the Green Party,
Yes, it
and
did.
it was co-opted by the Democratic Party. And do you think that I'm trying to come up with a word. Co-option is not a word.
In this case, it would fit very adequately. I think that,
Okay.
historically, that's absolutely correct. People like AOC took the Green New Deal. So they basically stole it from the Green Party and, co-opted it so they could water it down and give it less political power. I absolutely support the Green New Deal, but we need to start there and move far beyond it as well. I think we as the people, regardless of your political party or no political party, need to recapture policies like that, initiatives like that, and really give the meat back to it. I think it's a great policy, but we also need to stop letting these spineless electeds, making sure that we take that back and say enough is enough. You're not gonna it's almost mocking. That's what it is. That's what comes to mind. They're mocking us by saying like, oh, we can take what means something to you and completely make a joke out of it. And
Yeah.
also, I want to add, which is an important aspect, which some people may say like, oh, why would you say this about your own candidacy? At this current point in my political ideology, I do not think electoral politics is going to save us. So then some people will say, why would you say that when you're running for office? We need more people who know that we need a complete structural overhaul in office to be in those elected positions who know that we have to approach things from a macro systemic level and bring in the individual collective to completely reimagine, rechange what we need. Because we also have to realize we've never had a democracy that then became broken. This current form of democracy is working exactly as how it was intended to work against us. So we need to take it back and realize, we cannot just put a bucket under the ceiling leak and then just empty it out every time it gets full. We need not only to patch it up, we need a whole new house because that leak was meant to be there. And we need more people in office to have that courage to stand up for what's right.
So the two thoughts came from what you just finished saying, and the first, I just wanted to shout out the Green New Deal because I know that it's gotten so much bad press through innuendo that it's just a big socialist program, a big waste of money. Um, the way the Green Party imagine the Green New Deal was after the New Deal of Franklin Delano Roosevelt. And uh, just to offer uh, maybe uh, people an example, like if you go to Ithaca, New York, and you walk along these slate staircases along these gorges, that those are the kind of projects that FDR put people to work to do. And there's this gorge that goes right down the center of the city of Ithaca, from Cornell to downtown, and you leave Cornell University, go into nature, and then once you're down at the bottom, you're in downtown Ithaca. And it was great things like that that put people to work, and that the Green New Deal wants to put people to work, building renewable energy infrastructure, so that when you put people to work, then they have money to spend, which keeps the economy going. I really think that the Green New Deal, as imagined by the Green Party, has gotten a bad deal from America. Um, the other thing I wanted to say in your comment about you don't think that electoral politics is going to save us. Um, there is a woman who broadcasts herself on different platforms, Sabrina Salbati. She goes by Sabby Sabs. So Sabby Sabs, with different colleagues that also are independent broadcasters, have commented on the fact that electoral politics is not something that people on the left can depend on anymore, and that the left needs to be focused more on mutual aid. And would you care to comment on that?
I'm a believer in mutual aid and direct action. I think a prime example of that would be I am a member of my local chapter of the SRA, the Socialist Rifle Association. I do believe in gun control, but I think the current way, let's say the Republican Party approaches it is, no safety at all, whereas the Democratic Party believes in prohibition, and gun control is neither of those options, especially, gun control is not prohibition. It's intentionally, they want to take power away from working class people to defend themselves and take up arms. Is how I believe the current Democratic Party is approaching gun control. So I'm a firm believer in safe and responsible leftist working class gun ownership, making sure that more firearm safety training gets in the hands of people, especially things like what happens if you are injured because of a firearm accident, how first aid training.
Mm-hmm.
But we also do a lot of mutual aid work, making sure that we're getting, equity back in the hands of especially marginalized groups, as well as even just local businesses and that have become, disenfranchised, and getting, education and literature out there for people. And also, basic stuff like food bank work as well. So I think, the SRA, Socialist Rifle Association is doing great work that should be a prime example nationwide of how we should be approaching mutual aid and direct action, because we need to stop as a whole thinking, oh, sign this petition, is gonna, though I would like to live in a world where our current electeds would be morally persuaded. Signing a petition, sending an email to your legislator, it may put pressure on them in numbers, but it makes the assumption that they are morally persuaded, when that's not the case at all. We need to hit the streets. We need to cause a ruckus. You know, the retirement age raises slightly in France, and they're burning banks down. Good for them. You know what I mean? When are we gonna do that?
Yeah,
So
well, that's been my question by, a good portion of my adult life.
yeah.
Um, and yeah, well, that's all I could say about that. Uh, there's a lot of people. Okay, I'm just gonna not say anything anyway.
Hey, it's fine. I'm saying stuff that's maybe I shouldn't be saying either. So
Well, you're saying some very good stuff, and it is refreshing to hear somebody else say it and say it well. Um,
thank you.
yes, I'm 56 years old, and there's a lot of people my age that may have felt this way similarly in the past, but don't feel that way any longer because of their economic status. And it's just very disappointing. Um, it's disappointing even with people that that I respect who are politically savvy and give credence to um, people only voting for their interests and not maybe the interests of the whole.
They may very well know how to speak and move around their own political reality. Because there are people who truly are just so fearful of the change that we need that they pretend that we are actually living in a functioning democratic system, and they know that system very well, so that when they relay it to others, it sounds like they know what they're talking about. But they're speaking very knowledgeably within one piece of the larger puzzle. And just because they know that one piece very well doesn't mean that they are fully grasping the entire, the entire system, the entire functioning, breathing body. So you can give them credit for, being engaged, but at the same time, it's sometimes you gotta tell them, you gotta put the blinders down. This is ridiculous.
So, Social Security.
Same answer I'm going to give to minimum wage. If we had a functioning economy that actually cared about low income, working class people, especially vulnerable communities like this disabled people as well as elderly people, we wouldn't need to be talking about things like Social Security, because we wouldn't need safety nets as much as we do now.
Mhm.
So I think I'm gonna leave it at that. I absolutely support Social Security, but I think while increasing the funds for so and the branches that make up Social Security in terms of fiscal responsibility we owe to recipients of Social Security, at the same time, we wouldn't need a program like that if we actually approached our economy from a way that actually benefited the majority of people rather than the wealthy few.
Okay. And we will be right back after this message from our last show. To make a plug for those that have followed the No Name Yet podcast for a while, might remember a young man named Justin Simbitis. And that Justin has not been on the air on any show for a long time,
like a year and a half.
a year and a half, but has lent his image to be sold on a T-shirt.
That's right.
And get your pocketbooks and your checkbooks and your cash apps and your Venmos and
Sell some Bitcoin if you have to.
your Bitcoin and your your gold and your stacked gold and silver,
We take any form of currency,
any form of currency,
any form, except IOUs. We don't take that.
and act now because Halloween is on its way.
That's right. And after Halloween, the shirt is gone.
Is gone,
Never to be seen again.
and for a mere $30.
Everybody got $30.
A mere $30.
What could you even get for $30 these days? Nothing except this shirt.
Count Progy could be yours.
Beautiful.
It is beautiful.
You know who designed that shirt?
I'm assuming you.
That's right. That's right. 2 a.m, just a spark of an idea, and that's what came of it. That's a piece.
So if you would like to purchase a Count Progy t-shirt, reach out to Justin over Instagram, and I'll put this in the notes under the notes for the show. But that handle on Instagram is real, REAL, J Symbidis, and that's TSIMBIDIS 93.
It's a mouthful, but that's what it is.
It is a mouthful, and it'll be under the notes for the show. And we are back. Infrastructure.
Infrastructure. I am so jealous of like China that has high-speed rail. It's no wonder the United States wants to create all of this scary China, because they don't want us to know about the advancements the Chinese people have made.
I just saw a comparison. It was on X. Somebody had this video of the New York City subway system being flooded, and people wading through the water to get to their train. And the video next to it was a Chinese subway station, which looked like it was, from space.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, I'm sure we'll get to it, but a large portion of a lot of our problems is because of the military industrial complex. Over half of our federal budget is going to defense, which is basically just money. Over half of our taxpayer dollars are going towards imperialistically taking over the world. We see it now. We're spreading ourselves thin because we're all about short-term profit, not long-term profit. Well, in some cases, when it comes to like, Biden openly admitting on the Senate floor things like Israel was the best investment we could have ever made in the Middle East, like saying the quiet part out loud. That would be the only example of like a long-term profit the United States has made. But no, we would have a functioning rail system. We would be less car dependent. We would have walkable cities. We would have more green space. If God forbid, bike lanes. If the majority of our money didn't go to murdering poor people around the world. So yeah, we absolutely have the possibility to have things like high-speed rail. But if you think cucks like Pete Buttigieg are actually going to give a shit about issues like that, you're dead wrong.
Yeah.
And I'll say that blunt outright, he is a perfect example of how marginalized people can become part of the problem as well. Okay. No one is immune from being a part of systemic violence. And that's something that, like you said perfectly, social justice dies within the Democratic Party. They are the party of even things like solar panels on gas stations. They use these pawns that are part of, people who are a part of marginalized communities willing to betray their own communities to uplift the political corruption and the wealthy. So Pete Buttigieg as a gay man is betraying queer people who historically, especially with queer revolution and history in this country, is exactly against what we're seeing today and what he is supporting. He is supporting the neoliberal version of queer rights, which is all about, partying and Fire Island with rainbows and having, the money to vacation all the time, which is just not true for the majority of queer people.
So, well, you bring up a different topic, identity politics.
Again, it's I believe the systemic truths of all marginalized communities go back to the human rights issues that affect all of us. Of course, I'll use my own identity because I'm not going to speak on an identity that I don't belong to. As a queer person, of course, I'm going to have unique instances and experiences that don't apply to cisgender people, straight people, or heterosexual people. That makes sense. But at the end of the day, what's going to uplift my queer life is being able to pay my rent, pay my utilities, being able to have food on the table, why am I paying so much for, health insurance, car insurance? Queer rights are human rights, and we need to stop saying that phrase again. That's becoming more co-opted by parties like the Democratic Party, but we need to really mean it, because what uplifts everyone is going to uplift marginalized communities. So we can look at specific things like, encoding more in our law, anti-discrimination protections, and, enforcing, hate crime laws. Recently I was physically threatened, and while the person called me homophobic slurs, and I had no other choice but to call the police to document the incident because it was getting violent, and he was in my face calling me homophobic slurs, and the police officer told me because he did not hit you and called you a homophobic slur, it is not a hate crime. That's unacceptable. We need to strengthen, what hate crime laws are. However, at the end of the day, equity for all people, regardless of identity, culture, background, is what is actually going to uplift all marginalized people.
What about the present arguments about free speech?
I am a big believer in free speech. However, we do need to be careful who is defining what political violence is. Is the people defining? Is it uplifting the free speech of the everyday people, or is it protecting the state? Is it protecting the government? Because we're seeing a lot, especially with the genocide that is being committed in Palestine. Depending on where you are in the United States, what state you're in, even what locale, just protesting and supporting the Palestinian people can be seen as an act of violence, as a hate crime, because they're associating Zionism with being anti-Semitic, which you and I both know is completely false. And I'm a big supporter of free speech. I just called on your podcast Secretary Buttigieg a cuck. I think everyone should be able to say things. Jeez, I'm knocking down. I have my Halloween decorations. People should be able to say whatever they want to say, as long as it's not, affecting the safety of others. While at the same time, we need to make sure that the people are defining what free speech is and uplifting their ability to express themselves. Then what is going to protect the state, the government, and the police state.
Very good. Immigration.
I do not believe borders should exist. I am an open borders person. I know a lot of Republicans who may be looking into my candidacy may not that may immediately deter them, but of course I believe in community safety, making sure that regardless of who you are, that our communities are safe, and things of that nature. But our imperialistic endeavors, where we spread ourselves thin across the world, cause war, chaos, is also very much dependent on making sure that our borders in the United States are as secure and as violent as possible, because the United States knows there's going to be backlash from people that we are harming. Especially when you see that the government trying to do, coup d'etats in Venezuela, or, things of that nature, where we go and try and take oil or natural resources from other countries in like South America, Central America, because of the destabilization we cause in those countries, then a mass immigration comes on our end. That is because of our own behavior, our own government causing that.
So given the situation at the border now,
yeah,
and given the situation with our media, that it seems
it's also barbaric. I mean, people should realize the kids in cages thing that's, quote unquote, started during the Trump administration, that's continuing under the Biden administration. The Biden administration, if anything, has more conservative immigration policies than the Trump administration.
Right. And the Obama administration built the cages.
Yeah.
Well, what I was trying to get out was, given the media landscape, and it just seems like month by month that the conflicting stories that you hear, depending on what media outlet, whether they're mainstream or independent, it's getting more and more difficult to discern, even get a gut feeling on what the truth is in some aspects. Would you say a group of reasonable people came together and had an influence in the government and said, we're not exactly sure who's coming over the border right now, let's shut it down to catch our breath and to initiate some kind of immigration policy, since we haven't had one in 25 years?
No. What I immediately thought of, and obviously this is just an analogy, not an exact relationship, because these things are much more complex. We have a big pharma issue, corporate greed, when it comes with healthcare. I don't believe that we should stop our healthcare system to catch our breath and enact a system to replace what we currently have. I think replacing what we currently have is needed. But I think halting would cause more harm than good, because we have to realize, in the end of the day, these are people. These are people who are escaping violence, or trying to recreate a better life for themselves, their families, whether they're bringing their families with them or they already have family here in the United States. It would create all sorts of communication issues to halt it entirely. I think it's going to take a lot of courage and change to enact a new system, but I think that can be done without halting the immigration process entirely.
All right. And some might say that we need to maintain the borders for national identity.
That is white Christian nationalism talking. What do we mean when we say identity? Do we mean non-brown people? Do we mean English speaking people? We do not have, even though there are definitely some fascists who would like to see a national language, a national religion, we do not have either. And I know the Democratic Party likes to say this all the time, but I actually mean it. We are the backbone of this country is from immigrants, and that we are a melting pot, and we need to actually act like it, instead of you see horrific scenes of like Border Patrol on horseback whipping brown people. Like, what the, put it in black and white and put it in a history book, and some kid would believe like, oh yeah, that was during 100 years ago or something like that. Like that, it's we have regressed so much, and it's immigration. These people are just being used as political tools, and we have to realize this is a humanitarian issue. We gotta, and again, if we actually made a moral code out of our budget instead of, again, over half going to worldwide terror, we would have the resources
And if we didn't have the
to.
worldwide terror, we wouldn't have as many people coming over our border.
That's correct. People want to stay where they call home. Okay. If they want to come here, they should absolutely not be deterred to come here. But these people that are fleeing to come here are fleeing violent conditions that countries like ours have created. So you're absolutely right. I think the majority of the immigration we are seeing is because of our own doing.
So this is a an issue that is near and dear to my heart, and that is a little thing called cryptocurrency.
Mm.
There has been rumblings that especially the Democratic Party might be coming for the crypto. What is your position on cryptocurrency?
3 parts. So first part is I'll go negative Nancy. Something you see often, especially with local governments and state governments, is when they don't want to shift their budget into an actual moral code to raise more money for the current failing budget, they'll open up like casinos, things like that, just to bring in more money that way instead of actually approaching the economy from a functioning lens. That's how I'm currently seeing cryptocurrency acting. As a way to put a band-aid on a bigger issue. The second part of it is more positive. I think if we had an economy that worked for the everyday people, I think seeing cryptocurrency as a endeavor that the majority of people can get involved in, it would just be another technological advancement that would help, ideally create further equity for everyone. It's a normal part of, modernization. The third part is I do not know enough about it. And I think we need more electeds, more people running for office to openly say, hey, I want people who are involved, especially constituents, to come to me, to come to my office hours, to send me material that me and my staffers can read over to learn more about it.
Mm-hmm.
So when elected, I'm going to learn more about it. And I encourage people to teach me more about it.
Right. What I've invested my money in is in Bitcoin. I do appreciate the fact that it may be able to function as digital gold, meaning that God forbid if the dollar crashes.
It will. In less than 10 years, the dollar will. If we don't do anything now, the dollar will crash in less than 10 years.
Okay. And the reason why I'm going to exercise some skepticism is that there's a lot of people saying that 10 years ago.
Okay.
And
Okay.
there are people that are way smarter than I am that have scratching their heads going, how is this thing still working?
Mm.
So
Is it working though? I mean, there's groceries have gone up over the past few years. It's up like 400, like the food inflation is like the grocery order can go up to like at least 400% more
now
than
that's
it
true.
was.
That's a good point.
And gas prices, I mean, not that we should be so gas reliant in the first place, but you know, that its example was a corporate greed. Right when the war with Ukraine and Russia broke out, they said, "Oh, the price is going up," but it's like, no, the price per barrel did not change that much, and you can only see, oh, now it's election season, and the price went down a little bit.
Oh, the
Okay,
price has come down
a
a
little.
lot.
Like, all right,
I mean, you
sure,
can see through that.
yeah.
You know, I don't know that Bitcoin. If you'd asked me 5 years ago, I would have been a lot more positive on it as a solution. Now, if the government wants to get it, and take it away, I think there's going to be nothing that anyone can do to stop them. I just appreciate it that it is something that works for me.
Yeah, I think it's absolutely a tool that can be used by, again, everyday people, if we allow it to be within an economy that works for the everyday people.
Right. Yeah. So we've been going about an hour, and I would like to start to rein us in, but there's two more topics that may take up some time, and
Okay.
I don't want to limit. So I'm going to let you pick by saying pick one or pick two.
Okay.
Just say one or two.
Oh, one.
Okay. The military industrial complex, war, Ukraine, and Israel.
Okay. Israel does not have the right to exist. It invaded Palestine over 70 years ago. Um, it is not a state of the Jewish people. There is no such thing as there should be no such thing as a state that exists for any particular religious group or any marginalized group. The resistance that we are seeing in Palestine is something I absolutely support. Israel is killing its own people along with over 40,000 innocent Palestinian people, wiping out entire bloodlines, raping, torturing. There wouldn't be no Hamas if Israel did not commit the atrocities it commits in the first place. I believe the US government is currently profiting from the Ukraine-Russia war by funding literal Nazis in Ukraine. I think it's going to keep going and going and going as long as it funds the military industrial complex and the current people in political power. I would say we could use to our leverage by saying, no, we're not going to support Ukraine anymore, and use that power to create actual change in ending the conflict that is going on. And then we also need to look into things like, what's going on in the Congo right now. Slave labor are, many, Germany, France, the UK, the US, and Israel are all funding bad rebel groups in the Congo right now that are enslaving their own people to mine for things that create like laptop batteries, car batteries that we use. As well as what is going on in Sudan, which I encourage everyone to just Google what is going on in the Congo, what is going on in Sudan. I support ending the military-industrial complex, which everyone should, regardless of your political party. Again, over half of our budget goes to absolute trauma and harm worldwide. I don't think we should be supporting Taiwan either.
Is China a threat?
China is not a threat. No, China is only a threat to our current people in the US that are in power that want to continue to harm us. They are a threat to our current US government, which is not supporting us.
So you very bravely have articulated your positions on positions that a lot of people don't want to say anything about. So if we were to focus on the general stance of the United States, maybe use the word most of our wars since the year 2000 have been perpetuated by unelected neocons that find refuge in the permanent government that some people refer to the deep state. And then you have, liberals saying there's no such thing as a deep state. Well, then you're saying there's no such thing as the permanent government, which is a common term. The United Kingdom uses it. It's all those elected people, unelected people that stick around between administrations that don't go anywhere. If we're not going to have wars, we have to eradicate these neocons out of the government.
I agree.
I don't see any other way. Nothing is going to change. How do we do that?
I want to bring in, especially from the nonprofit sector, I want to bring in the experts on this. I want to surround myself with people who have firsthand experiences interacting with these neocons, knowing their power structures, how they create the deep roots that they cling on to. When you hear, unfortunately, I think Elon Musk, before we even got on for this call said something like, I want to help Donald Trump when he's reelected, get rid of 80% of the federal government. They're using, unfortunately, populist terms for their own self-interest. But, if we can use that in ways that actually benefit the people, I think shining more of a light on creating transparency in our government and its processes. And that also goes back to, universal education, an education system that is, actually educating the masses to be a part of their government. And, by creating an actual democratic system, people become more engaged and more aware of a larger body that they are a part of. So I agree with you. I fully agree with you. We need to get rid of these people. But we need to also empower the everyday people to understand what is going on and give them more power to have a say in whether people come and go.
How do we reduce the power of the military-industrial complex and its influence? I mean, as well as the influence of the oligarchy, corporate power. I mean, it all seems to be a part of the same thing. I mean, in light of the Supreme Court decision, Citizens United, where now corporations are people, corporations have First Amendment rights, which part of those First Amendment rights are how they use their money in politics. And I have to admit, it just seems like a daunting task that that could be changed.
I can't believe I'm saying this, but I want to be careful with what I say in response to this. But as an elected official, I will personally be a part of and continue to support direct action by any means necessary. I think Lenin had a lot of good things to say. I think the working class people need to come together across partisan lines and see that we need to stop infighting and fight upwards. And I would like people to reimagine literally what fight means. And that's what we're going to get to that point. We're going to get to a point in the US, it's going to get worse before it gets better. And we're going to have to ask ourselves, what is it going to take to create a government that works for us?
So the last policy point I will ask you about, one near and dear to my heart since I'm employed by a hospital, healthcare.
I strongly believe in universal healthcare, Medicare for all, and more. Again, I am a big supporter and activist of youth suicide prevention as a youth and adult suicide prevention or suicide attempt survivor myself. So when we talk about universal healthcare, that inherently implies mental health care. All basic medical needs should be completely covered by our government. So we do not have any copays, deductibles, scams like that. Our current healthcare system is a profit-making system. It is not a system that actually works as a healthcare system. With that, I also think, for example, the Cuban government, they have a really strong medical system. They have found a cure for lung cancer. Curing lung cancer in the United States would not make as much money as treating it. So there's a reason why the US has not, as we know it, discovered a cure for cancer. We need to approach healthcare from a prevention, intervention, and postvention standpoint, and that includes also assisting people. I'm 5 years sober, assisting people with substance use disorder, which that in itself is a symptom of our failing society, government, and especially economy. And we need to treat healthcare like healthcare, not like a business. And that's clearly, capitalism wants to charge you hundreds of dollars for a life-saving thing. My own, even as a kid, I remember my own piano teacher died because his insurance denied him the care that he needed to treat his cancer, and he died a very painful death. And no more. We can't tolerate that. That's not a healthcare system. That's a government that wants to give us crumbs and wants us to be grateful for the crumbs.
So I have one last question. Besides how people can follow you and how are people going to write in your name? And that question, you mentioned AOC earlier. Should you be elected the next congressman of the 20th Congressional District, what would stop you from capitulating to the establishment?
I'm running for this position because I want people to have another choice for when they go to the polls, and feel good about their vote, to really be like, I'm not choosing least worst. I'm choosing this person because I want to support this person and actually feel for once in their lives that they're a part of a democratic process. I can return back to what I'm doing now if I want to. If I'm not, let's say I get elected and I don't win a second term, that's the choice, hopefully not by big money, but of, in politics, but of the people. I'm confident that I will find something to do. I'm doing this because I want to work for the people. So I will work at your discretion. And I'll say it now on record. If I ever do anything that is against the will of the majority of the constituents, call me out on it. You know what I mean? Make a fuss, call my office, make a ruckus. It's I want to be able to hear from you. This is not about me. This is about everyone in this district and in the nation. Hold me, you see activists yelling at AOC in a theater for being very timid when it comes to the genocide happening in Palestine, and she's yelling back at them, being like, how dare you, like basically being like, how dare you hold me accountable. You will never see me angry with a protester, even if it's a fascist protester. If they're not being violent, they have the right to protest. So long story short, call me out.
All right. So if they brought you into the office and you are Tonko's successor, and they're saying, Max, we really need you to vote this way, and if you don't, we're going to take away all that funding for all the electric car charging station that Mr. Tonko set up in his district.
First thing I would do is let the public know, hey, here's the names and the addresses of the people that are threatening me to take this away from you. How do you feel about that? I'm not threats like that. This isn't compromise where you have to say, I'm going to take something away from the people for the general good, public health, if you don't vote this way. That's not how a compromise works. That's not negotiation. I mean, I'm definitely not a believer of incrementalism, but that's a threat. That is an open threat. So anyone who's telling me we're taking funds away from you if you don't do X, Y, and Z, that's not someone who I will work with. Anyone alongside me in Congress who wants to do actual good for the people, even if we don't see eye to eye all the time. If you're going to threaten to take funding away from my constituents, I'm going to make clear and very transparent that this is the exact communication where that occurred. This is exactly what they're saying. This is what they're threatening to take away from you. And I know people across partisan lines will appreciate that I'm making transparent to them what's going on behind closed doors.
And as AOC had proclaimed when she first ran, would you stand by the values that you projected to the voters, even if that means you were a one-term congressperson?
As I said before, absolutely. As long as that election is run by the people, if people don't want me after a first term, then you do not want me after a first term. but I will make sure that, that I will be serving your interests every minute that I am in that office and beyond, as I am currently now as an activist. So my values will not. The only time my values will change if the values of my constituents change. I am here as a vessel to translate your needs in Congress. That is what I'm doing. I am a vessel. I am not my interests.
Very good. And how can people follow you?
People can follow me, especially on Twitter at Max Micallef, MaxMicallef. And when you go to vote, whether early voting or on election day, you're going to see a spot on your ballot that says write-in for New York's 20th Congressional District. You'll see Paul Tonko. You'll see the red version of Paul Tonko, Kevin Waltz or whoever he is. And you can write in my name, Max Micallef, Micallef, in that box. And that is how you can cast a vote for an independent candidate. And
okay, and you had said, you just said there's another candidate in the race. There is a Republican running this time.
there's blue Paul and red Paul. There's Paul Tonko, and then there's Kevin Waltz, I believe is his name. He's on the conservative lines and the Republican lines. I shouldn't even be giving him that attention, but
well, why not? Because I vaguely heard there was somebody running.
that's the problem, right? And no, yeah, I don't see the two parties as two individual parties at this point. They're the same party, so they're just the two candidates of the same self-interested
Right.
coin.
And a lot of people characterize the fight as no longer left against right, but us against them.
Yes,
Yeah.
I fully agree.
Well, Max, I really thank you. I thank you for your transparency, and I just encourage those that might be inclined to give Max a chance to go to the polls if you live in the 20th Congressional District and write his name in.
Thank you so much for having me on. I really appreciate it.
All right. Thank you for being on the show.
Bye.
Good night.